I thought number one would surely be me. I thought I could be what I wanted to be. I thought I could build, on life's sinking sands. Now I can't even walk without you holding my hand. Lord, I can't even walk without you holding my hand. Oh, that mountain's too high and the valley's too wide. Down on my knees, I learned to stand. Now I can't even walk without you holding my hand. I thought I had done a lot on my own. I thought I could make it, all alone. And I thought of myself as a mighty big man. But now I can't even walk without you holding my hand. Lord, I can't even walk without you holding my hand. Oh, that mountain's too high and the valley's too wide. Down on my knees, I learned to stand. Now I can't even walk without you holding my hand. One day I met Jesus, my all in all. Now when I'm in trouble, it's in his name I call. And if I fail to trust him, I'd be less than a man. Now I can't even walk without you holding my hand. Lord, I can't even walk without you holding my hand. Oh, that mountain's too high and the valley's too wide. Down on my knees, I learned to stand. Now I can't even walk without you holding my hand.
And God bless you today, and welcome to our program we call Coming Home. If it's your first time tuning in, it's really just a program where we try to encourage others that Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And we do that through testimonies of people that have gone through all kinds of experiences and overcome addictions to drugs and alcohol and all places and walks of life. And if you're out there today and you're not serving God and you have a desire to serve Him, I believe He's calling you today, and we encourage you to give your life to Jesus Christ. And so we trust you're encouraged by our program today. And today I have Brother Jonathan Alano with us, and so we're going to get into his story a little bit and hear a little bit about his life and how God dealt with him. And so, Brother Jonathan, thanks for joining us today, and I guess tell me a little bit, for people that don't know you a little bit. I know you were born and raised in Brazil, and tell me a little bit about your childhood and how God started dealing with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think as far back as I can remember, I was around church and music and everything. Parents being church, and I'd be running around up and down the church aisles. And it was just being in that influence. From a young age, it definitely sticks with you. I remember going up and singing the first time I was, probably 4 or 5 years old, just being a little guy, and it's just always been a big part of my life. Which.
Yeah. So then I think you gave your heart to God as a young child when you were still in Brazil. Is that?
Yeah, I was still in Brazil. I was 9 years old. 8, 9 years old. Got baptized, and it was real. I think a lot of times little kids, we get baptized, and it just seems like we're just doing it because maybe a friend comes up after some church meetings or some church youth camp or something. But I know that it was real. I felt something. It told me to go up there, and I understood what I was doing. And and then life goes on. I mean, things happen in life.
So then you came to the States, and
yeah, it was 1999. I was 11 years old, and it was a big change. You're kind of in your comfort zone, and all of a sudden you got to come to a new country and learn language and go to different school, and I guess everything just kind of changes at that point in life. And
so you said kind of as you were hit your teenage years, I guess things started to maybe go the wrong direction, I guess. Tell me a little bit about the struggle of knowing right and wrong, and yet being pulled from the world, and kind of what you went through in that time period of your life.
Yeah, I think it's something that a lot of people can relate to, especially the ones that were raised in church. Everybody's got to have that experience for themselves. I had to have that experience, but until that happened, I was just a young kid going to school and trying to fit in, and a lot of times, hate to say it, but even being ashamed of the gospel. It's something that you're not proud of, but it's a truth. And maybe you get embarrassed, maybe you bow your head, just really quick to pray over your lunch, and and you start worrying about what your friends think of you, and you start maybe thinking, that to be cool, I got to fit in, and fitting in a lot of times means not doing what you were taught to do in the first place. And but that sticks with you. He's 13 years old. 13, 14 years old. You get a girlfriend in school, and then all of a sudden you're playing around, and slowly God starts taking a back seat, and it just becomes, and then it becomes a battle, because what you're doing is wrong, but what is what you're supposed to do, and you live your life during the week, and then you go to church on Sunday, and then you can't wait for church to be over so you can just get on with your life and get on with your week. And because really you're just there because your parents want you to be there. But again, it's got to come down. I had to have that experience for myself, and it wasn't until, it took me a few years. Just stop there a little bit. I remember being about, I think it was 16, 17 years old, and I remember telling my dad, that I'm done. I'm done with church. I'm done with God. And he's like, well, you're not going to do that as long as you live here, as long as you live on our roof. And I was like, well, I guess I'll respect that as long as I live here. But I was long gone by then, and it just became a farce. You become somebody that you're not. You wear one one hat during the week, and then you wear another one. You represent one thing, and then you represent something else, and obviously the bad things started taking over. Yeah. And to me, being loving music as much as I do, that was, to me, that was a big downfall. I started, next thing you know, I'm listening to, it started out with simple with simple stuff. Next thing you know, I'm listening to, the hard rock, and then next thing you know, you get into emo rock. That was popular back when I was in school, and I'm like, and you start listening to that stuff starts taking you down. And next thing you know, you start hating everyone around you, and you start, and you start having, these thoughts and everything, and you're like, well, what is going on here? Well, obviously the root of it was because I stepped away from what I knew was right. The Bible says, raise a child in the way they should go, and they won't depart from it. And it always stuck with me because I knew that what my parents did, the effort that they put in, it's almost like I was just kind of letting it go.
Yeah, but all the while, a desire to be right. What do you inside of you that is kind of like a yo-yo, I guess. Tell me, like of emotions.
Yeah, it's like I said earlier. You go, you know what you're supposed to do, and yet you don't do it. But when you don't do it, you feel convicted. And I think anybody can relate to being convicted of something that you're not supposed to be doing, but you do it anyways. And that's what happened constantly. And next thing you know, I get a job at, I think I was 17 years old, and I get my first job working at a restaurant as a waiter. And and to me it was, I look back now in life, and everything that happened for a reason. But sometimes you wish. In anybody's testimony, I'd imagine they go back and say, maybe I wish that didn't happen that way. Maybe I wish I didn't have that scar. Maybe I could have done, you would have saved yourself a lot of trouble. And I remember getting my first job and being a waiter, and that really drug me down because, Friday nights and Saturday nights, it was music night, and it was just the lights go dim, and then you're just sitting there in a music hall, and they're just singing and everything, and the whole time I'm out there, serving alcohol and everything, and I am grateful that that God kept me from alcohol. I'm a kind of person that when I get into something, I get addicted to whatever it is, and and it just seems like every single day that I went to work, I was offered. And I think what really kept me from it, I would look at these guys that would just be drunk working, and then they would go home and miserable. And a couple of the guys lived right in the basement of the place we used to live, the apartment we used to live. And I'm like, that's a miserable life. I sure don't want that. Wow. And I'm grateful that God kept me from that, because who knows,
where you'd end up.
I know I would have came back eventually, because you're a son of God, but it would have been a harder road back.
Yeah. So I guess there's some meetings going on, and you decided to jump in a rig to get out of town. I guess tell me a little bit about that.
I was living, I don't know if I mentioned, I was living in Massachusetts, in the Boston area, and we had some meetings in Illinois, and I went just for the sake of going, and Mom's, constantly saying, if you bug me for a couple of weeks, let's go, just, and good intentions. Obviously, that's your parents, want the best for you. And now that I'm a dad and have a family and have kids, I want the best for my kids, and that's what she wanted. And I'm thinking, why would I want to go? Because in my heart of hearts, I know what's going to happen if I get there. And so I got in, and I barely knew these brothers and sisters who I got in the van with, and I drove 24 hours with them, get to Illinois, and meetings going on. And I'm like, okay, I'm just going to do this. I'm going to get it over with. I'm going to go back and just do, whatever happens, no future, really not caring about anything in the future. And then I think it was a Friday night. Service was over, and people were dismissed. And, I went downstairs, and I'm like, I'm done. I'm like, I'm not gonna go back up there. I know what was going to happen if I got back up there. But going back to that, being taught right, something in me told me, you better at least be respectful and get up there, because I did have the fear of God. And so I did. I got back up there, and I just sat in a pew in the very back. And, excuse me, and then they start singing a song, He Was There All the Time. Now, for me, I look back now, and I know that God was there all the time. I remember just looking up, but for those of you who are familiar with the church over there, you'll remember this. But there's the platform, and then there's the band area, And something just drew my attention to that area. And I remember just looking over there and just closing my eyes and just thinking, you know, and something told me, you know, that little dove that sits there and, you know, and walks with you and goes every step of the way, he was sitting over there in that corner, you know, and I immediately recognized that was Christ. You know, I had left him, wherever I left him somewhere, and he's there waiting, and he was there the whole time, you know, no matter what I did, I mean, he was watching me, you know, addictions I could have gotten, you know, I mean, this class I graduated from, everybody was doing pot. I mean, that's just the thing you did, you know, and somehow God kept me from that. And for whatever reason, you know, I mean, we have struggles. Everybody has struggles. I went through stuff. I was a teenage boy, you know, I was a young man. I mean, and things just, it seems like the devil pulls at you, but the whole time I just remember that God was there all the time, and I remember what I was taught when I was a young kid.
Amen. Man, so you recommitted your life to Christ, and I guess from that time it's been different.
It has. It did. You know, it was right after that service. You know, I got up on the prayer line after that service. You know, during that prayer line, and right after service, I went downstairs and talked to my pastor. And he wasn't my pastor then, but right away he became my pastor. I'm like, this is what I've been looking for the whole time, you know, and I just needed stability in life, you know, and I found that. And I'm like, you know, I'm going to move to Idaho. Now, living back east, you think of Idaho, you think of potatoes or something. I mean, who knows? You know, I mean, you don't. There's just not, you know. So what is he doing moving all the way? Well, that was God guiding me, and you know, for once in my life, I let God guide me, and it was the best decision. You know, I know it's the best decision I ever made. You know, I know it's God guiding me, but it was the best decision I ever made because, you know, I look now, I'm married and. You know, I've been serving the Lord now faithfully for 10 years. I mean, this was 6 or 12 years. And, you know, I got a wonderful wife, you know, kids. We got 4 beautiful kids, you know. I got my parents, I got my brothers, you got wonderful in-laws, people, you know. And then it almost becomes like a big support group. Everybody just helps each other out. You know, you come to church to serve God and you just draw strength from that. And that's something I didn't have. You know, I lacked for such a long time. I didn't have that. And once I found it, I didn't dare lose it. You know, and I think that's something that a lot of times being a young person, you don't realize what you have is really the best. You know, I mean, you may think that life is hard, and I did. You know, I mean, there was a lot of times I thought, I'm like, what's the point of this? Why? You know, but God knew. God had a plan. Amen. You know, and that's just.
Amen.
To me, it's amazing.
Amen. Well, I appreciate you sharing that. And we're going to ask you to maybe sing that song for us today as we're getting ready to end our program. And I trust that you'll enjoy that. But today, I trust it spoke to you and where you're at in your life. And He's there all the time for you. He's just waiting on you. And sometimes, you know, we're waiting on God, but He's not going to come and He's not going to die on the cross again. He already did that. He already paid for your sins. He already paid for all your mistakes. He's just waiting for you to accept that blood sacrifice and to commit your life to Him. And I encourage you today that He's been there all the time for you, and He's there for you today if you want to give your life to Him. May God bless you.
Time after time I went searching for peace in some void. I was trying to blame all my ills on this world I was in. Surface relationships used me till I was done in. But all the while someone was just waiting to free me from sin. He was there all the time. He was there mine. He was there all the time. Never again will I look for that fake rainbow's end. Now that I have the answer, my life is just starting to rise. Sharing each new day with Him is like a breath of fresh life. Oh, what I missed, He was waiting right there all the time. He was there all the time. He was there all the time, waiting patiently in line.